Welcome to Displaced Gamers. My name is Chris, and this is Talkin Code episode 3.1. In previous episodes, we examined circuit boards for NES games and noted that many pre-mapper chip-based games, such as Super Mario Bros., use a solder bridge to configure whether or not the game was designed to scroll horizontally or vertically. And many people commented that they wondered, well, what would happen if we were to change the configuration from horizontal to vertical? And enough of you asked that I finally decided, okay, I'll do it. So one quick operation later, and... It's playable. It might look confusing, but it's basically just a matter of having a consistent graphics glitch on the left side of the screen. Now you may notice a few things. The glitched left side is a preview of the future, as what is behind Mario is what is about to be scrolled onto the screen from the right side. And even with graphics glitches on the left side of the screen, the real objects are still in place. They've just been like wallpapered over with other graphics. So question blocks are background elements, and they change to that used block graphic after being struck. If I hit one of them after it's crossed over that center seam, it shows up again after scrolling the screen a bit more. If you've observed Mario a lot in the PPU viewer of an emulator, you know how the graphics line up, and things start to get predictable in this modified version. That's going to disappear. There you go. But the results are still amusing. It's a little weird attempting to play the game normally while also looking behind Mario to see everything else that's going on. While most of the results are predictable, some of them can take you by surprise. Whoa! So if you've seen the previous videos or have a basic understanding of scrolling, name tables, name table mirroring, you probably have an idea of what's going on. And I'll do a simplified explanation and also tell you how you can try this at home without modifying your PCB's configuration for Mario. So first off, what's happening? The NES has enough video RAM for 2 screens. Programming controls how the screen, the viewport, the camera, whatever, moves, and Mario is still programmed to scroll horizontally. What we changed when we altered the circuit was how the mirroring is configured in VRAM. Well, what does that mean? In short, if you have 2 screens available, how do you want them oriented to one another? If you're scrolling horizontally, you want the 2 screens lined up like this. We'll just call them 1 and 2. If you're scrolling vertically, you want them lined up like this, 1 and 2. And we want to use our screens that way so we can load upcoming graphics outside what the camera can see, kind of buffer the level, load upcoming background graphics in advance. And then we can scroll the viewport and see those and continue to load more and more and more in advance. And it just wraps around onto itself for whichever direction we're scrolling. Now, because the 2 backgrounds can be oriented either this way or this way, the NES was designed in a way that makes us think of backgrounds as being placed in quadrants. 4 addresses are needed to handle the various directions we could go. The addresses are going to be the same in various configurations, so it's a matter of what background goes where. There are only 2 backgrounds in VRAM, so each background is shared by 2 addresses. We call this mirroring. So unaltered Mario looks like this. 1 and 2 are next to each other and ready for horizontal scrolling. The same side-by-side layout is available using the other 2 addresses below. Now, these addresses are not used, but if they were, they would just point to the same thing we see in their counterpart above. When we changed the circuit board configuration, we did this, kinda. And I say kinda here because this isn't quite accurate. Now, it makes sense if you pictured this in your head based on my earlier explanation just a moment ago. We changed the solder points so the backgrounds should be stacked like this, right? Well, remember, Mario is programmed as a game that scrolls horizontally, and it will use the appropriate addressing and horizontal rollover as always, regardless of what we did to the PCB. So that means that after it draws screen 1, it moves over here to draw the first half of screen 2. But wait a minute, these two addresses now point to the same background in VRAM. So instead of placing half a background's worth of tiles into what it thinks is background 2, it actually overwrites background 1. And background 2 in VRAM is never addressed. So here is your background layout in the nametable viewer. All background tiles will always be written to the same background, or nametable as we call it, in VRAM. The second nametable is never touched. See all of these zeros? VRAM is filled with zeros for that nametable. So the emulator says, oh, this is filled with tile ID 0. If we look at what tile 0 is in the character viewer, it is the number 0 in the Mario font. Bit of a coincidence. So that's what we see in the unused screen 2 when we look at it in the nametable viewer. Long story short, Super Mario Bros. Is constantly maintaining a screen and a half's worth of background data using only one background's worth of VRAM. The background you see at any point in time is 1.5 backgrounds wrapped around onto itself in VRAM. The game is designed to keep Mario centered on screen while moving, so he's always standing right on that seam, provided he doesn't backtrack. So how can you enjoy this feature without modifying your physical cart? Something has to store or indicate cartridge configuration for a given game, more specifically for a given ROM. What mapper should it use? Does it have an MMC chip? What size is the ROM or ROMs? What type of mirroring does the game have? Many emulators have the ability to modify the header information for a given game's ROM. You can change the mirroring type in Mario from vertical to horizontal. Remember, mirroring is the opposite of scrolling direction. And save the configuration. And best to do that using a separate file. And for any emulator or device that reads the ROM file's header to determine its configuration, this is enough. You're done. However, many emulators, including Messen, use a built-in game database that most likely uses the ROM file's checksum without the header to know which configuration to use. Well, what does that mean? Well, it basically means it'll ignore your header in your ROM file, determine this game is Super Mario Bros., and it will look up the configuration for Super Mario Bros. And load it from the emulator's database. So you can change this data all you want and nothing will happen, because all this configuration is loaded from somewhere else instead of the ROM file itself. In Messen, you can address this by going to Options, Preferences, selecting the Advanced tab, and then checking the box that says Disable Built-in Game Database, which is not recommended, apparently. But that should get you going to give Wraparound Mario Brothers a try. And I think what I find the most interesting about this whole project, I guess you'd say, is that this is something that could have been done as a prank to your friends if you'd known about it circa 1985. One small change with a soldering iron and the game has serious graphics problems, but it is still playable. Please subscribe for more videos like this one. Well, maybe not exactly like this one. And I'm going to go put this game back to normal. Thanks for watching.
It's a nice looking castle.